You are now listening to the Be Your Own #LoveGoals podcast with Moe Ari
and Tiffany.
We just want you to remember that every person, regardless of identity, wants these three things: belonging, authenticity, and love.
And after a decade of partnership, we've learned to co-create these things and so much more.
So from wherever you're listening, we're going to go on a journey of becoming our own #LoveGoals. Now let's get into this episode. You are now listening to the Be Your Own Love Goals podcast. Is Moe Ari
and Tiffany.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
We know that the holiday period gets painted as this time of celebration, love, joy, collective community. And we've been centering a lot in our holiday episodes, experiences of the holidays that are different from what we expect. So when I think about this, I think another subject that comes to mind is family. So what to do during the holidays when we don't have the family we wish we had. For some people, the holidays can be challenging. They can be disappointing. They can bring up a lot of sadness. And especially for LGBTQIA plus people, we often have experiences of family that are less than ideal. So when I think about the holidays and wanting to talk about family, I think of chosen family. So I wanted us to spend some time talking about chosen family, how you cultivate chosen family, what that can look like in our lives, and how we can utilize that system to support us during this time. This will be different than our other episodes around grief, being single during the holidays. Because when we think about chosen family, there's a lot that comes up from our families of origin. So I wanted to take some time and just talk about that before we even launch into chosen family. Talk about what it's like to have family of origin that is different from what we were hoping for, especially during this time.
Wow, you just went with it. I think when I start to really sit with this idea of, our expectations shifting about our family, or when we realize we don't have the family that we thought we had, it's really important to think about what family means, right? And I feel like I was at this crossroads many years ago, having just come out, being in a relationship with you, it being the holiday season, deciding where I'm going to spend my time, and honestly getting adverse reactions at the time, and really having to sit with, okay, the holidays are supposed to be about family. I'm not getting what I thought I was going to get here with my biological family. What then does family mean? Who do I want to surround myself with if I want to experience joy and connection and love? And at this point in time, I really hadn't challenged the notion of what family meant. Family was, my parents, my siblings, my aunts, my uncles, the people that I was biologically connected to. And so I think I had to really sit and say, okay, family is beyond this. Especially during the holidays, family is love. And acceptance, and not just acceptance, celebration. Right? Family is all the feel goods, but also having the opportunity to be vulnerable. And even if we have difficulties, we talk about them, but the love still remains. And so when I begin to think about anybody listening who is at this point where you're realizing, wow, this is not the family I thought I had, it's really challenging your idea or definition of what family is. Because I feel like we've been fed very early on that family is one thing, and family is vast. It's so expansive. It's so many different types of families, ones that you can create on your own that are not traditional, so to speak. And so when we begin to, as we go through this episode and start to talk about chosen family and how we can create the community and spaces that feel best for us, is really sitting with how expansive family can be, and
Yeah.
it can look so many
Mhm.
different ways.
Mhm. Yeah, when
Yeah.
you were saying that, this had me thinking about family of origin. It also has me
Mhm.
thinking about like when you haven't been able to cultivate the family you wanted.
Yeah.
Because for so many people experiencing any kind of like fertility challenges
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
even around partnership, which we've talked
Mhm.
about in earlier
Mhm.
episodes during this season,
Mhm.
this idea of family can become very uh, prescriptive.
Yeah.
It's like, especially with how many messages we get during this time around what family means, it's often people looking biologically related.
Mhm.
It's often a mom and a dad. There's just all
Yeah.
these messages we get about what family has to look like.
Mhm.
So they're usually not inclusive of Black families.
Yeah.
Those messages and images are not often inclusive of LGBTQ plus
Right.
families. Those ideas are not often inclusive of friends and chosen family. There's often this very linear, patriarchal view of family. And as we see so many people not be able to participate in that, it's important that we dismantle
Mhm.
that we talk about what it can be to create family
Mhm.
in more nuanced ways, in
Yes.
expansive ways. So I
Yeah.
like that you said that the idea of family is expansive,
Mhm.
because it really, really is. When you got to this piece around celebration and how that's
Mm.
at the core of family,
Mhm. Mhm.
I really think that that's true.
Mhm. That
Yeah,
celebration is so important, and I feel like oftentimes, especially for people a part of marginalized communities, um, I would say specifically LGBTQIA plus people, it's really, we all want to be accepted, right? Like we
yeah,
want to be accepted and feel welcome into a home or into a space or into a community.
hmm,
But beyond that, the
yeah,
celebration in addition to
yeah,
that is
yeah.
like, man, we are doing
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, we don't wanna just be tolerated. I
No.
think there are so many LGBTQ plus people who relate to exactly what Tiffany
Yeah.
is saying right now.
Mhm.
That beyond just being accepted and welcomed in, this celebration of who we are and our identities is so necessary in family space.
Yes.
And
Yes.
a lot of times, especially for queer people, we are not going to families that are cultivating that.
Mhm.
We are blessed because we've cultivated that
Right.
with our families,
Mhm.
um, and there are many people who don't have that.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that out loud.
Yeah. So many people that don't have that. And so I will always say my ideal when it as it relates to family is celebration. Whether I'm LGBTQIA plus, whether any of my identities, like celebrate
Yeah.
me. Like that
Yeah.
feels like family.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
what about when we don't have the family we wish we had, Tiff?
Yeah.
When we don't have the family that we have been wanting or
Mhm.
idealized,
Mhm.
can you think of maybe like can you think of ways in which that has shown up in the maybe not in your life, but in
Mhm.
examples from stories that you have heard
Mhm.
or ways that we can invite our listeners into thinking about their own situation, as like there are probably people here like I don't have the family I wish I had, but maybe they don't know they feel that way. So
Mm.
how might they be able to connect their own story? What are some examples?
Yeah, so I mean, I can speak from my example, and this is in the past. These are things that we have worked through, but early on, I realized that there were certain certain traditions or certain things that I either wanted to do or no longer wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, whether I didn't feel like it was celebratory of my identities or other people's identities in the family, and the reception towards not doing it or doing it was very telling of, there's some misalignment here.
Yeah.
There is some pushback here. There is
Mhm.
some discomfort here. And I,
Mhm.
one, has to sit with the grief of, my family not wanting to do this thing that I wanted them to do,
Mhm.
or not wanting to stop a thing that I felt was not supportive
Mhm.
or not in the best interest of everybody that
Mhm.
was there.
Yeah.
And So it's sitting with the grief of like, wow, I thought it was going to be different, right?
Yeah.
I thought you would be accepting of this part of me,
Yeah.
or I thought you wouldn't want to do that because I'm telling you it's offensive.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have known that or got to that realization until this opportunity presented itself. And so you
Mhm.
could be operating in a family that is not what you expected and not know it, like you're saying, until these opportunities present itself.
Mhm. Do
And
you
so,
have an example of what that thing might be in a family dynamic?
mhm, let's say I'm drawing a blank on my own personal experience, but let's say you're in a family and there's some language that you use that everybody uses that is very offensive to LGBTQIA plus people, right?
Mhm.
It's just common language, common word choice. And you're like, this is very offensive that you say X, right?
Mhm.
This is not okay. Like you explain all the reasons why, this would not be loving. And if I ever brought home a partner or if I ever brought home a friend that identified in this way, it would be highly offensive.
Mhm.
And if you present that to your family and they say, actually, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with it. And I mean, we've done this forever. Like we've always used these words. We've always operated in this way. Um, this is an example without being very, very specific. So being in this situation, having presented this to your family, expressing that it's offensive, expressing that it would not be welcoming of everybody of
Mhm.
all different types of identities coming into the space or into this dinner or whatever the situation is, and them responding in a way that was not still not supportive of what you were saying,
Mhm.
I think is the moment where you're like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
This is misaligned.
Yeah.
um, and I was saying that you wouldn't realize that or you wouldn't understand that you were misaligned until an opportunity like this presented itself.
Yeah. These can be
Mhm.
moments where we know what the growing edge is,
Yes.
or we learn what the limit is that we're hoping to expand.
Mhm.
And so there might be those moments in our awareness in our
Mhm.
families. I'm
Mhm.
just hoping to get more examples to our audience of like what this can look like. And I know that you have lived a lot of these experiences, but you don't have to talk about your own experiences. Just
Mhm.
like wondering if you have more examples of what it is like inside of family, or like what someone might be struggling with in their family that could be creating this feeling of like not having family that you wish you had.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, for instance, it could be that you're not feeling accepted because of your sexual orientation,
Right.
or your gender identity.
Mhm. Mhm.
It could be that your family has stopped getting together because of the loss of a
Mhm.
matriarch or patriarch.
Mhm.
It could be that you are estranged from family.
Mhm.
Um, I think these more specific the more specific examples that you just gave are very helpful,
Mhm.
because there are so many scenarios that play out within families that I think really sever those bonds or can really harm the
Mhm.
relationships without us knowing.
Yeah.
And then we could be left feeling like, I don't have the family I wish I
Mhm.
had. We might be leaning out of traditions this year, or we might be wanting to do something different for the
Right.
holidays as a result,
Mhm.
but we would not know that unless we really examine why this is coming
Yeah.
up for us.
Yeah. I love that you said that, and I can think about an example of, a Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Mhm.
And there being a lot of discord at this particular Thanksgiving dinner. So you have arguments starting to happen, or you have
Mhm.
a lot of difficulty between family members, like altercations, right?
Yeah.
And this is a real life story. And so you
Yeah.
have this situation happens, and people, I happen not to be at this particular celebration, But in the retelling of the story, many of the people there were like, "Oh my god, I never thought this would happen
Yeah.
in our family. Like I never thought it would whatever situation or issue came up would get to the point where we are like
Feuding.
feuding,
Right.
at Thanksgiving, at this
Yeah.
time that's supposed to be like gratitude and thankfulness and all of these things." And so, um, for a lot of people, including myself, not even being present at the moment, I was like, wait, I didn't think this was the family that
Mhm.
I didn't think this is what we had going on over here. And so I think it's a real reckoning of like, wow, we're human
Right.
and
Absolutely.
things happen. Like I could have had unrealistic expectations of my family, or I could have held them in a pedestal, which in a lot of ways is unfair.
Mhm.
And so sitting in that moment of being like, "Ooh, this is not the family I thought I had." I
Mhm.
feel like it's an opportunity, one, to try and get or try and understand the pay, like where everybody else is, so that you're
Mhm.
all on the same page. Cause maybe we truly do have a lot of different expectations.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is, there might be a need to set some boundaries around protecting you and your space and your family going into those spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you
Mhm.
said you might have had different expectations,
Yeah.
or you might have had your family on a pedestal.
Mhm.
Yeah. There are many I think many of us can relate to that too,
Mhm.
that people are just showing us that they're human at the end of the
Yeah.
day too.
Yeah.
In some instances. In other
Some.
instances, we might have really difficult relationships with some family members.
Mhm.
We might have been kicked out of our families or excommunicated from our
Mhm.
religious communities if we came out as queer.
Mhm.
There are so many experiences that I think are specific to LGBTQ plus
Mhm.
people that show up here with regard to
Mhm.
family that
Mhm.
do leave us wishing more. And it's
Yeah.
not just, or leave us wanting more, and
Mhm.
it's not just that our families are being human.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
They are not accessing their human capacity for unconditional
Yeah.
love in those
Yeah,
moments.
right.
But I think those are really great examples of other instances that have come up
Mhm.
that can also really impact your bonds as a family.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, for whatever the reason that you're feeling separate from family, I think this is what we're getting into in this episode, like
Yeah.
what to do
Mhm.
when you are feeling uh, disconnected. We'll
Yeah.
get into that what to do. I
Mhm.
have a question that needs answers
Mm.
today.
Okay.
So the question is, I'm hosting the Christmas. I'm hosting the Christmas holiday in my house this year, and
Mhm.
I've decided not to invite certain relatives. I've sat with this a long time. I experience these particular relatives as messy and always creating fights and arguments among family whenever we get together. They have other families they spend the holidays with anyway. Though nothing violent has happened, I really have distanced from them because I fear that this kind of company would only lead to something terrible happening. I am not close to them, and they are distant relatives as far as I am concerned.
Mm.
But my mom is close to their mom, my mom's niece. My mother wants me to invite these relatives, but I don't want to have them in my home. I feel pretty stressed about what to do.
Mm. Why is this such a common story?
I think when you have so many different personalities, a lot of different people, a lot of different
Yeah.
walks of life in the same family, the expectation would be that they would all be similar. But we know in one family, we can range in socioeconomic status, uh, education, value systems,
Mhm.
outlooks, beliefs,
Yeah.
political beliefs. And
Mhm.
so this idea is that we will all be the same, and we're
Right.
not. And I
Right.
think that we need a collective work to be done around difference in our
Mhm.
society. How do we sit with people when they're different from us?
Yeah.
How do we show up and congregate in the same space while still being loving? And I'm hearing from this question that these particular relatives seem to bring a little chaos with them when they come.
Mhm.
And so if you're experiencing that and then you're like hosting the holiday, you're like, I
Yeah.
do not want this to occur in my home.
Yeah. I say that because I hear this kind of scenario a lot. I feel like I've been at this crossroads before, and I would say that as the host of an event, of this holiday celebration, you get to decide who you want in your space and who you get to share space with. And if there's a history of like discord and messy behavior, and you are really wanting to cultivate a space of love and joy and togetherness, you really would have to sit with if that's what you want to welcome in the space.
Yeah.
And for me, I think I would choose not to. I think it's very difficult when you have moms that are like, you should invite so and so, or
Mm-hmm.
it would be nice if you would invite
Mm-hmm.
your cousin. And it's like, as much as you want to please your mom or whoever it might be in those situations, you really have to think about what will impact you the most. Being the host, you want everybody there to have a good time. So if you know you're willingly inviting in potential mess that could impact the experience of your other guests, I would just rather everybody have a good time and not invite them.
Yeah. Mm.
Personally.
I'm torn. I agree with Tiffany naturally.
Mhm.
And I have a challenge with that only because I need more answer. I need more. I have more
Context.
context
Mhm.
because there's a part of me that's like, okay, now if these relatives have been messy, but they are not currently feuding with anyone, they haven't done anything that was
True.
like irreversible to someone or something that's so egregious where they would create a trauma if someone saw them, then it could be worth having
That's
a
true.
conversation.
That's true.
I am all for even sending a text message and saying, last Thanksgiving, I saw a lot of stuff happen that I was like really, I had a hard time really sitting with. I really love you and care about you. And I'm hosting the holidays this year. I want you to come and I want to have an agreement with you that certain things won't take place in my house. Out of respect for me,
Yeah.
out of love for me, and out of love for you, I want us to be able to I want you to know that I want you there wholeheartedly. You are invited and always welcome. And if you don't feel that you can abide by these rules, like not getting into any loud arguments with anybody or not throwing a glass, not doing X, Y, and Z that I saw take place, I will please ask you to not come. But I really, really want you there. So I'm hoping that you can find it in your heart to agree to those terms and uphold them, because it would be a loss for everybody for you not to be there.
Look
Right?
at you being a therapist. I could never have come up with that
Now that's gonna be a
response.
long text message. I'm sure somebody would rather you call them on the phone, but sometimes if you need the courage to
Yeah.
work up the courage to say that, you
And
have
to
to
get
just
everything out.
write that up in a text message and send it. And by their response, you will know whether or not they can be invited or not invited. If they cuss you out and go off on you, how dare you send this to me, blah, blah, blah. They're not supposed to be there. You came to them with respect. You offered them love. You said how much you care about them and why you want them there. And if they respond to that really negatively, then that's, like by cussing you out or
Yeah.
doing something ridiculous, then that's one thing. Now they might say, well, of course I will respect your house. Why would you think that I wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. And you could say, because of how things happened last year,
Yeah.
I walked away from that not really feeling that respect. But I want to invite you into telling me how this felt for you, for me to say this to you. And then maybe they'll share. I like to teach people how to have conversations to get through the challenges that we're facing, because I didn't learn that. I still am trying to learn those things and apply those things. I just learned, okay, they're not getting invited, they walk away. Now, a lot of times it got to the point where you had to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying before it gets to that point, could somebody have intervened?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about inviting that person that is, shady and makes people uncomfortable, or maybe they are trauma if they walk in the door for somebody. I'm not saying invite that person.
Yeah.
But if these relatives are messy and they're not currently feuding with somebody, or it's not going to be like fighting on
Violent.
site.
Yeah. You make some good points.
Okay.
I think I'll dial it back. I feel like you give context into this. Like in my approach, I didn't even allow for the opportunity to have communication. Like you're saying, there's some times where you just like, nah, you ain't coming. Like
Yeah,
it's
it
no
has to be
conversation about
that
it.
because that's
Hmm.
for safety and
Exactly.
yeah.
But in some instances like this one, if nothing violent has occurred or they're not currently feuding with anyone, I think that a conversation could be really necessary and worth it. And like you're saying, their reaction to the response is information. To
Yeah.
your text message or to your communication is information. It's information as to whether they will be able to handle being at your event or
Yeah.
whether they can just stay over there where they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think emphasizing that you really want them there
Yeah, that's
and
important.
that it would be a loss for them not to be there kind of will help you to feel like,
Yeah.
okay, I was not judgmental. I
Yeah.
really told them how I really feel about them. So I think it's one thing to send a message like, if you're not going to act right, you can't come. That doesn't feel loving. You want to
Mhm.
invite them in a loving way, not like you're being judgmental.
Mhm.
And so I think having that conversation with them, even if you're
Mhm.
texting them,
Mhm.
can do a world of difference for at
Right.
least your
Right.
consciousness. You won't feel stressed. You could say, go back to your mama and say, I told them I love them. I want them there. I just really want them to agree that they're not going
Mhm.
to do that.
Mhm.
And their response was, well, if somebody get in my face, that's what's going to happen. They
Yeah.
can't come.
Mhm. Period.
Period.
I know it's hard to answer to our mamas, but I think your approach is the best one here.
Yes.
Mhm. Baby.
I think
Oh
about
my
us having
gosh.
kids now. And
Mhm.
it's like so many things you don't want your kids witnessing or
Yes.
experiencing. So sometimes you have to take them out of those other environments. And for us, I think, especially as Black people, that's painful
Mhm.
because we have a lot of survivor's guilt or we have a lot of guilt
Yeah.
about being people who don't partake in certain
Mhm.
activities
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
Or you feel like you being uppity or stuck up or
Mhm.
um you're brand new
Right.
because you don't want your children influenced by certain
Mhm.
things. And there are certain things I don't want Nova to be around or ever experience until
Yeah.
she's ready.
Yeah.
So if I choose to not have certain people or if I choose to say, like, my mom did a thing, and this is no offense to anybody who does this. My mom
Mhm.
was always like, we had a non-smoking home.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to smoke, they had to go outside. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, we're from Chicago. So that means you had to go outside in like negative 20-degree weather on
Okay.
Christmas if you were
Yes.
smoking.
Mhm.
But that was her rule because she
Yeah.
didn't want that in her home and she grew up around that, whatever.
Mhm.
If people wanted alcohol, they had to bring it.
Mhm.
She grew up where people didn't have limits. They didn't have,
Mhm.
they didn't have, what's the word? They didn't have a stop. They didn't have a
Yeah.
filter. So they were
Mhm.
always kind of doing these things
Yeah. Not
without
a lot of
no
moderation.
moderation.
Mhm.
So if it was readily accessible, then before we know it, somebody's like 6 glasses into
Oh Lord.
some wine and
All the family secrets out.
they hollering back and forth, "My daddy ain't so and so." And I grew up
Oh
kind
my
of seeing
gosh.
that, but it would
Yeah.
never happen at our home. At our
Mhm.
home, it was like we singing like we're best friends to
Yeah.
karaoke music,
Yeah.
and but she created this environment kind of consciously because she
Mhm.
knew
Mhm.
that these issues kind of always take place when
Yeah.
people are smoking, drinking, gambling, other things.
Mhm.
And she was just like not happening, not
Yeah.
having it.
I don't blame her.
So then my mom got good at coming up with other games to play,
Yeah.
which will be our next episode. We'll talk about
Yeah.
the games my mom is great at creating.
Mhm.
But I think to this person's question, you should intentionally create the kind of environment that you would be proud of for the
Mhm.
holidays. You are
Yeah.
hosting it, so you are the curator of that
Yep.
event.
Yep.
And so that means that certain things cannot take place at your
Mhm.
event.
Mhm.
And so you want to just invite them into that very intentionally. This
Yep.
is not that kind of space.
Yeah.
and I really, really want you there. I love your jokes. I love the stories you tell. It would mean so much to me if you came. I
Mhm.
just want you to know that I expect this to be the
Yes.
boundary for tonight.
And
Even,
yes, I think it's so beautiful in your response that you're encouraging them to reiterate what it would mean or what the loss would be if that person didn't come.
yeah,
Because I feel like oftentimes, well, a lot of times we don't have these conversations, but if we do have these conversations, we leave that part out. And I
yeah,
feel like it's that level of vulnerability that softens people's hearts that even if they were in a state of quote unquote messiness, it's you saying, you know what? It would mean a lot if you came, or it wouldn't be the same if you weren't there. That I feel like would just soften them in a way where that messiness might just go away, right?
yeah,
It just opens them up to new possibilities and it opens their heart. I feel like if we lead with an open heart, we lead with that vulnerability, it is an intentional way to set the tone. And I
yeah.
love that you said that because I feel like for a lot of people, including myself, I leave that part out.
Mhm.
And it's so important. It's so,
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, and I think there's also an opportunity there if you hadn't already extended to them some type of support, if you had that kind of
Mhm.
relationship,
Mhm.
to ask them about what was coming up for them too.
Yeah.
Because I think when we're in those spaces, sometimes that's our only time that we've cultivated to
Yeah.
really process or to like really
Yes.
talk to people that we don't typically see.
Mhm.
So sometimes we get into conversations or that escalate into
Mhm.
difficult conversations around things from the
Mhm.
past, because a lot of times families are only getting together for
Mhm.
weddings, birthdays, funerals. There are not this many, there are sometimes not always the moments to really
Mhm.
talk about what's been coming
Right.
up
Right.
unless you've intentionally cultivated that in relationships. So these things happen.
Mhm.
These things definitely happen. But if
Yes.
you are experiencing someone as being disrespectful or not being conscious of how they
Yeah.
are sharing space, it's really important that you invite them into
Mhm.
that conversation. So thank
Yeah.
you for reflecting that that's very thoughtful
Yes,
and
it
compassionate.
is. It really is.
This moves us into our hashtag love resources.
Mm.
If you're good to move into that,
Yeah.
Tiff,
Mhm.
because when I think about family. Now,
Mm.
some of your family of origin could be a part of your chosen
Yeah.
family. These relatives are obviously not a part of the chosen family for this
Mhm.
person's questions that
Yes.
needs answers.
Exactly.
Um, but I, defining chosen family, we
Mhm.
define chosen family as non-biological kinships or biological
Mhm.
kinships, whether legally recognized or not, deliberately chosen or
Mhm.
mutually supportive and loving.
Mhm.
So I think that it can be your biological family, your non-biological family, legal, not
Yeah.
legal, having some type of
Yeah.
kinship or not.
Mhm.
Just that there's these people within your life or in your community that you have this mutual love and respect for,
Yeah.
that you choose to share
Yeah.
holidays with, you choose to go through life with. That can be
Yes.
friends.
Mhm.
It's
That the
yeah,
choice part of this is so important.
yeah,
Because back to my earlier point of not having ever challenged the notions of family, a lot of times, a lot of us are like, well, this is the family I've been given, so it is what it is. But with chosen family, you deliberately choose who you
mhm,
want to be in community with. And as you mentioned, Mo, it can be people that are biologically connected to you. And it can be that coworker that you just love hanging out with
yeah,
and your best friend for 10 years and this person and that person. So that deliberate choice is really creates an environment, not to say that you have control over, but that you understand the foundations of.
yeah, absolutely.
And that is so important. It really goes a long way.
Absolutely. I love that you
Mhm.
said the coworker you really love spending time with.
Mhm.
Sometimes we overlook the people we spend the most time with through work and
Yes.
other spaces,
Yes.
but these are often like some of our closest companions.
Mhm. If you work a, let's say, 9 to 5 every day, you spend 8 hours with a coworker 5 days out of the week.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, that's probably more time as an adult that you spend with your parents. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Not to say you don't have deep, loving relationships with your parents, but allow these people who you spend this really close time with to have space in your life outside of
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you can set up the boundaries that are necessary,
Yeah.
but I'm just encouraging you not to overlook those people as a part of your chosen family too,
Mm-hmm.
if it feels good.
Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
what are some of the benefits of chosen family, Tiff?
I think, like I was saying, it's because you're able to be so deliberate in who's a part of that. Ideally, you're cultivating that space for mutual support and love.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from just being with family or being at a dinner out of obligation because that is my first cousin on my mother's side, but I don't really feel like they respect me. It's like, no, I chose
Yeah.
this village of people to be here in my home and we're having the time of our lives.
Yeah.
It's something
Absolutely.
so beautiful about that intention that creates, or it's like you know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you know what to expect. Like, okay, I've chosen these people. It's gonna be a good time. And if challenges arise, I trust that we can handle it in a way that is still loving and compassionate.
Right. And I think like when we're looking at chosen family,
Mhm.
some of the other benefits could be
Mhm.
like creating new traditions,
Mhm.
being able to cultivate this community of people that are willing to cheer you on or cheer you
Yeah.
up in
Yeah.
very challenging moments. I
Mhm.
think we all kind of need that support through life. Um, Chosen family allows us to receive support
Mhm.
and have others to confide in
Yeah.
through different challenging moments in life
Mhm.
or joyous moments.
Mhm.
Being surrounded by people who understand our unique challenges and life
Yes.
experiences. So sometimes, like, let's say you're in a family, you're LGBTQIA plus, then you might want to have some members of your chosen family that also share those
Mhm.
identities,
Yeah.
because those parts of your identity might, need more support and love in various
Yes.
moments.
Yes.
You might be able to attend events with your chosen family and
Mhm.
celebrations together. So as
Mhm.
you think about cultivating these new traditions, chosen family might be your community that you can rely on in order
Mhm.
to cultivate new traditions, or
Mhm.
they could be your plus one to holiday parties if you need a plus
Exactly.
one. So
Exactly.
leaning in there, and then you get to share in each other's wins with your
Mhm.
chosen family.
Mhm.
I see chosen family as a village that will continue to evolve and grow over your
Yeah.
lifetime. Some members of your chosen family are not going to be there forever, but some people will be there for the long
Mhm.
term. So we can see chosen family as something that's evolving, growing, and adapting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I feel like I really struggled with chosen family in the past because I hadn't really sat with the grief of not having the relationships I wanted elsewhere that I thought were just by default going to be great and amazing.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage anyone, if you're creating chosen family or have chosen family or people that really want to be there for you, and that do show mutual support and love, lean in.
Yeah.
Like, just lean in. I think that there's so much beauty in being present there that allows even your heart to open up and the hearts of other people in those other relationships to be healed by the
Yeah.
love that they see that you might be experiencing with chosen family. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be hard to lean in
Mhm.
when you've had other challenges in your family of origin
Yeah.
or your other relationships. So be conscious of that too. I think that that's something that I'll even keep in mind going forward. It's like
Mhm.
how my previous relationship experiences impact my experience of
Yep.
chosen family.
Yep.
Hmm. Thank you for saying that.
Of course.
All right, Tiffany, as we close out this episode with our truth or truth question of
Yeah.
the day.
Mhm.
It's a potluck at work. What are you eating?
Mm.
What are you bringing? Why you scrunch up your
First
face
of
like
all,
that?
potluck at work does I just
It depends on
haven't
where you work.
more than where you work, who you work with. Okay, who's gonna be cooking? So your question was, what am I eating at the potluck and what am I bringing?
Mm-hmm.
I will eat some homemade baked cookies,
Okay.
and I will bring. I typically bring something sweet, so I might bring a peach cobbler
Okay.
to the potluck.
Nice. Nice.
What about
It's for the
you?
holidays too, so that'll be nice. Nice.
What about you?
I think, I'm a bit of a maverick at I'm
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
Okay, the potluck. I think if somebody brings like their version of like cheese, grapes, a little charcuterie situation,
That's
I'll
a safe
probably
bet.
I'll probably have that, the
Mhm.
fruit and whatever.
Mhm.
I tell you what I won't be eating. I won't be eating anything that is a casserole.
Never, ever, ever. Never have I ever.
But I probably will if there's like a meatball thing, I probably will try it.
Mm-mm. Because meatballs get formed. You don't know what's inside the
That's
meatballs.
true.
I'm not eating nothing with
Okay, I guess I
meatballs.
shouldn't have the meatballs. Maybe if they have some wings that look like they came from Publix.
Right. Store bought stuff I'll eat.
And then definitely the cookies and stuff. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what am I bringing? I have to dazzle people with my cooking skills, so I'm definitely gonna bring like something that's like a main item. Like I'm going to
It's
bring
giving big Leo energy.
giving Leo energy. I'm definitely gonna bring like the baked mac and cheese, or I'm gonna bring like the ham. Like I'm gonna go buy a
Oh my
honey baked
God.
ham or something like that.
To the work
To the
potluck?
work potluck. I have to like go big or go home because I need everybody to walk away being like, Mo is such a good cook, or Mo just brought the best ham. I need to be the best if I'm gonna
Just
do it.
do it. Go big or go
Yeah, and
home.
I'm probably gonna if they let me bring in the wine or something, I'll bring in that too.
Mm. Can I come to your potluck?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, potlucks at work. Yeah. If it's not, I said homemade cookies because cookies, it's kind of hard. Well, actually, no, it's not. I could be able to look at them and tell if they're burnt.
Mm-hmm.
Store bought things I will eat, but it's the casseroles are no, like it's
Why
very.
do people do that?
I have no idea why people, and it's not like you bring a traditional mix of things in the casseroles that I've seen at potlucks. It's like cranberry, raisin, cheese, and broccoli. Like it's just always something like, were you high when you made this? Okay, I'm a get off. I'm gonna get off the
Accurate.
people in the
It's
potlucks.
it's
Yeah,
like what in the Nettie Crocker is this?
Nettie Cry.
What's made you?
Oh my gosh, I'll get a sip of the Sprite.
Oh my gosh.
I'll take a sip of the Sprite. Whoever brings that. I
Wow.
just wish that people that weren't the best with their culinary skills would volunteer and bring like
The
the
plates.
plates,
Order
the
pizza.
drinks, that kind of
Why do
thing.
they volunteer their
Then
cooking?
they try to bring the main event.
They bring the most stuff too.
I'm gonna get off the people because they just trying to spread holiday cheer, I guess.
Oh, and then we be so sad we not eating it.
I don't be sad though.
Uh, other other people try it because they hate that nobody's tried it.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm good for announcing ahead of time. That's how would I do this? When they start talking about there being a potluck,
Mhm.
I'm like, now if you can't cook, you should probably.
No, you don't.
I don't point at anybody. I'll
Yeah.
say it playfully and competitively. So it's like that
Mhm.
nudge is there.
Mhm.
Like, now if you can't
But
cook,
I find that most people who can't cook are not self-aware to the fact that they can, and that's the
I
issue.
think somebody's probably eating their cooking. It's so many different
Oh,
palettes.
okay. Well, on that note,
Wow. And why would you? I think you got to bring multiple things to this potluck. By the way,
Who,
you can't
me?
just bring the peach cobbler.
My peach cobbler is very
But your
good.
sandies are good too.
I would bring an assortment of sweets. Okay, I make
But I also
sandies.
think you make really great other things.
I can't. I'm not the cook for the whole potluck. It still has to be a potluck.
Sometimes you just need to sign up for multiple things. That's what I started doing too.
Oh,
I've
that's
done that.
cool.
I've like just decided to bring in multiple different things
Yeah,
to make sure
see,
that it wasn't.
at one of my previous jobs, I did like a dessert potluck. Well, it was supposed to be a dessert party that I provided all of the sweets for. And I had this beautiful, sweet coworker that was like, I want to bring tahini flavored chocolate chip cookies.
I had them. They were not bad. It just was like nobody wanted them, but I ate them. It's a very
If
interesting
y'all can see
taste.
my face, it's straight.
It tastes like tahini.
I just don't want tahini in my chocolate chip cookies.
It tastes like spicy.
So I
Yeah.
tried to curate this event on my own.
You should have told her not to do that.
Well, actually, I didn't know she was doing it until the night before. Oh, I bought all the ingredients to make the tahini chocolate chip cookies for the event tomorrow. And I was like, what can you tell to the woman? She's so excited to make the cookies. So I brought them home to you.
They were spicy. It's just not spicy in a hot way, but spicy in like a if you put a spice like tahini in there.
Yes.
Like if you
Child.
put not cinnamon, but like spicy, like
Like
how
that hits the back of your throat.
Yeah.
Child. Needless to say, I am not a huge fan of potlucks. So there are, if you have chosen family and you're thinking about a sort of event that you can do with them, if they can cook, by all means, have a potluck. But there's so many other things that you can do too. So many opportunities to celebrate with your chosen family, to lean into chosen family, start new traditions with your chosen family, all of
Yeah.
the things. And so we hope that during this holiday season, you have that family, whether it's biological family that's included in chosen family. You have this group of people that really show mutual love and support that you can like celebrate with during this season, because
Yeah.
it really can be a joyful time. And as challenges arise, that you also have these people to support you in the difficult moments as well.
Thank you so much for wrapping up our episode in such a beautiful way, Tiff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. This has been Be Your Own Love Goals podcast with Moe Ari
And Tiffany.
Have a great day and be well.
Bye. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Video episodes are on YouTube and Spotify.
If you want your question included in an upcoming episode, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Be Your Own Love Goals or check out our website at lovegoalspodcast.com. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Bye.